I faked a business trip, hid in the attic, and caught my wife cheating with her coworker in our own bedroom. I didn't come down alone. I invited both families to watch. Hey there, we're working hard to hit our first 1,000 subscribers. If you love true, emotional stories, hit that subscribe button. It helps more than you know. Now let's get into the story. If I had trusted my gut 6 months earlier, maybe I wouldn't be sitting here telling you all this. But love makes you stupid. It makes you hold on to things that are already broken. The last thing my wife, Rachel, 28, said to me before I left for my so-called business trip was, "Don't worry, I'll miss you eventually." And then she laughed. A quick little smirk like it was the funniest thing in the world. I was standing there, suitcase in one hand, keys in the other, wondering when exactly she had started hating me. Almost said something. Almost called her out right there. But something in me said, no, don't give her a chance to cover her tracks. I kissed her forehead. She barely even flinched and walked out the door. My name's Ethan. I'm 30. And until that night, I thought I was married to the love of my life. I dragged my suitcase down the steps, listening to every thud like it was a countdown to the end. Started my car, pulled out of the driveway, drove exactly 2 blocks down to a crappy little gas station, parked in the dark where the cameras wouldn't catch me. Then I waited, heart pounding, hands sweating on the steering wheel. I counted the minutes, waited long enough that if she was watching, she'd believe I was really gone. Then I killed the engine and crept back toward the house on foot, sticking to the shadows like some burglar in my own neighborhood. I unlocked the back door, stepped inside. The house was quiet, too quiet. Rachel wasn't even peeking out the windows to check on me. She was too busy texting someone on her phone. I could hear the clicks from the kitchen. Perfect. I pulled down the attic ladder. It creaked so loud my heart almost stopped. I froze, holding my breath. Nothing. She didn't hear, or didn't care. I climbed up and pulled the ladder shut behind me. The attic was gross, dusty, hot, smelled like insulation and old Christmas decorations. But I was ready for it. I had packed a sleeping bag, a couple bottles of water, granola bars, beef jerky, even a damn bucket for when I needed the bathroom. You don't set a trap like this unless you're serious. I laid there in the dark, trying not to imagine what might happen downstairs, trying not to imagine whose hands she might be holding, trying not to imagine whose bed she might be warming. I stared at the old wood beams overhead, listened to the familiar sounds of the house shifting and creaking. Hours passed. I heard Rachel moving around, footsteps, the TV clicking on, cabinets opening and closing. Normal stuff. Too normal. Around 9 p.m., I heard the front door unlock. My whole body tensed up. I slid over to the attic hatch, pulled it open just a crack, and looked down. And there he was, Jake, 31, a fellow teacher from Rachel's school. I recognized him from a few school functions. He taught history, always had a loud laugh, always a little too friendly with her. I had told myself I was paranoid. Guess not. Jake strolled in carrying a bottle of wine like he owned the place. Rachel met him at the door, barefoot, wearing nothing but one of my old t-shirts. The same one she used to steal from my closet when we were dating. Now she was wearing it for another man. They hugged like they hadn't seen each other in years, even though they worked together 5 days a week. Rachel kissed him. Not some quick peck. A slow, hungry, desperate kiss. And just like that, it was real. The thing I had been afraid to believe was standing right there, 5 feet below me. I watched them settle onto the couch, laughing, pouring wine. Jake kicked off his shoes. Rachel curled up next to him, legs tangled, hand on his chest. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. They talked for a while, stupid jokes, inside stories from school, flirting like a couple of teenagers. And then she stood up, grabbed his hand, and pulled him upstairs. Into our bedroom. Our bed. The door clicked shut behind them. I sat there in the dark attic, feeling like the house was collapsing around me. Every memory we had built in this place suddenly felt poisoned. The Christmas mornings, the lazy Sundays, the nights we stayed up talking about our future. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't overthinking. I wasn't insecure. I was right. I curled up in the sleeping bag, every part of me aching. At some point, I heard the front door again. Jake slipping out into the night like the rat he was. Rachel locked the door behind him, went back upstairs, and fell asleep like nothing had happened, like she hadn't just ripped apart everything we had. I stayed awake in the attic for hours, staring into the dark, thinking, if I stormed down there now, if I screamed, if I threw her lies in her face, what would it change? She'd lie, cry, blame me somehow. No, she didn't deserve a private confrontation. She deserved an audience. If she wanted to humiliate me in secret, I was going to humiliate her in broad daylight. Everyone was going to see what kind of person she really was. Everyone. There's a special kind of pain that comes from watching your life fall apart in front of you and not being able to do a damn thing about it. I laid there, cramped up in the attic, heart pounding so hard I thought the whole ceiling was shaking. Downstairs, my wife, my Rachel, was giggling like a teenager with a crush. Jake poured her another glass of wine. I could hear every word, every flirtatious laugh, every "you're so funny, Jake," every "I missed you this week." Missed him, like I didn't even exist. And the worst part? It wasn't their first time. I could hear it in how comfortable they were. The way she leaned into him, the way he kissed her forehead, the little inside jokes about last Tuesday and the staff room. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't a one-time thing. This was routine. I felt like an idiot. A blind, pathetic idiot sitting in his own attic while his wife played house with another man. Rachel stood up after her third glass of wine. She didn't say a word. She just grabbed Jake's hand and led him upstairs, to our bedroom. I didn't need to see what happened next. I already knew, but I forced myself to watch anyway. Through a crack in the attic door, just above the hallway, I saw them disappear into the room. The light clicked off. My fists clenched so tight my knuckles popped. It took everything in me not to crash down through the attic, grab Jake by the throat, and throw him into the street. But what would that do? Give her a chance to cry and play the victim? Let Jake spin some story about how things were bad, and she was so lonely, and he didn't mean to? No, not this time. I needed something she couldn't explain away. Something permanent. Something final. I pulled out my phone. Started recording. Audio only. No need to traumatize myself more than necessary. Their voices carried through the thin walls of our house, clear as day. Laughter. Kisses. Muffled words. Rachel whispering, "I wish you could stay the night." Jake chuckling, "You know I can't. Not yet. Not yet." That hit harder than anything else. They were planning something. A future without me. Maybe even waiting for the right time to get rid of me. Divorce me, maybe, when it was convenient. I felt sick, but I kept recording. Every laugh. Every disgusting, backstabbing whisper. Hours dragged by. At some point, I heard the soft creak of the mattress. The door opening. Rachel's bare feet padding down the hallway. She opened the front door, whispered something to Jake that made him laugh again, and kissed him goodbye. I caught a glimpse of him leaving, still buttoning his jeans, shoes untied, smug grin on his face. I wanted to burn it into my memory. Good. It would make what was coming feel even better. Rachel locked the door, checked her phone, laughed at a text, probably from him. Then she went upstairs again, into our bed, and slipped under the covers. Alone, I laid there in the attic, barely breathing, counting every second. I didn't sleep. Couldn't. I just kept replaying everything in my head. The months she'd been distant. The nights she said she was working late. The fights she started over nothing. All of it made sense now. It was never about me being too clingy. Never about me not understanding her career stress. It was about Jake. Jake, who got to enjoy all the parts of her she didn't think I deserved anymore. I stared up at the roof beams, cold, hollow, empty. And then, sometime around 5 a.m., as the first gray sliver of dawn cracked across the sky, I realized something. Catching her wasn't enough. If I just confronted her, she'd cry, lie, maybe even twist it all around on me. No, everyone needed to see it. Her family, my family, the people she put on a pedestal. They needed to see who Rachel really was when no one was watching. I opened my phone, typed out a message to my parents. To her parents. Big news. Got a promotion. Want to surprise Rachel with a brunch at the house tomorrow morning. Bring balloons. Sent it. One by one, the replies rolled in. I turned off my phone and just laid there, heart still pounding, feeling more awake than I had in months. Tomorrow, the truth wasn't going to hide in whispers and shadows anymore. Tomorrow, Rachel was going to be exposed. Not just to me, to everyone. And there wouldn't be enough wine in the world to make her laugh it off. I stayed up there in the attic while the sky turned from black to gray to that sickly yellow of early morning. Rachel slept like a baby downstairs. Guess betrayal is exhausting. Meanwhile, I was sitting there planning how to dismantle her entire life. The texts had already gone out. My parents, Frank and Linda, excited beyond words. Her parents, George and Carol, practically already popping champagne in her honor. Even her little brother, Matt, texted, "Can't wait to celebrate your success, dude." If they only knew. The plan was simple, brutal, perfect. I was going to stay hidden until everyone arrived. Then, at just the right moment, I would come down, like the world's angriest surprise guest, and drop the reality bomb straight onto Rachel's little brunch party. And the best part? She wouldn't even see it coming. I figured the more normal everything felt to her, the bigger the shock would be. Around 7 a.m., Rachel finally started moving around downstairs. I heard her shuffle into the kitchen, still half asleep, making coffee. I cracked the attic hatch just slightly and watched through the tiny slit. She looked rough, hair tangled, wearing the same t-shirt she had thrown on for Jake the night before. I could almost laugh. Hosting brunch in her cheater chic wardrobe. I pulled back, careful not to make a sound. One thing you learn when you're betrayed. The truth isn't something you tell people. It's something you show them. I didn't want any arguments. No fake tears. No, it's not what it looks like. I wanted facts. I wanted witnesses. By 8 a.m., I heard her phone buzzing like crazy. Texts from my mom, her mom, everyone. Rachel sounded confused at first. She called my mom back. I could hear the cheerful shouting even from the attic. "We're 5 minutes away. We're bringing balloons. We're so proud of you both." Rachel stammered something about not knowing what was going on. But my mom, bless her soul, just kept barreling forward like a freight train of joy. I heard Rachel sigh. Then a lot of frantic movement. Her running upstairs, probably realizing the house was a mess. Good. Let her sweat. She wasn't expecting company. Definitely wasn't expecting her whole world to get flipped inside out. I heard her brushing her teeth, running water, slamming drawers, trying to make herself look presentable, trying to play the role of the perfect little wife again. Downstairs, the front doorbell rang. I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. I heard my parents first, my dad's deep laugh, my mom's excited clapping. Then her parents, loud, beaming, proud. Rachel opened the door still wearing my damn t-shirt, hair half done, panic probably barely hidden under a fake smile. Surprise, they all shouted. Balloons, flowers, confetti poppers, the whole stupid thing. Rachel stammered something about not understanding what was going on. That's when I made my move. I slowly, quietly pushed open the attic hatch, lowered the ladder down. Nobody downstairs noticed. They were too busy fussing over Rachel. I crept halfway down, heart hammering. Took out my phone again. Started recording. I wanted every second of this burned into memory. I stood there, just out of sight, listening. Frank, my dad, was talking about how proud he was that we made it work despite the busy schedules. Linda, my mom, was practically crying with pride. George was cracking open champagne bottles at 8:30 in the freaking morning. Carol kept saying, "You're such an inspiration, Rachel." Rachel was trying to smile, trying to act like she had any idea what was happening, trying to play the innocent wife while my sweat-soaked t-shirt told a completely different story. That's when I took the first step down, and another, until my foot hit the floor. The room went dead silent. Rachel turned. Her eyes widened so fast I thought she might actually faint, because there I was, the husband she thought had left town, standing right there, in our living room, recording every second. Rachel opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. No words came out. I smiled, not a happy smile, a cold, hollow one. "Hey, babe," I said, voice light as air. "Miss me?" The second my feet hit the living room floor, it was like all the air had been sucked out of the room. Rachel froze mid-sentence, holding a mug of coffee with both hands like it might protect her somehow. Her parents, George and Carol, were standing just inside the doorway, my parents beside them, everyone holding balloons, flowers, even a giant "congratulations" banner someone had scribbled my name on with a glitter pen. It should have been a happy moment. It should have been a celebration. But the second they saw me, standing there dirty, sweaty, eyes burning holes straight through Rachel, it all started to fall apart. My mom, Linda, blinked at me like she wasn't sure if I was a ghost. "Ethan, I thought you were out of town, honey." I gave a tight, humorless smile. "Yeah, about that," I said, and pulled out my phone from my jacket pocket. I didn't even have to say anything else. I just tilted the screen so everyone could see the open file labeled Rachel and Jake, 9 p.m. to 2 a.m. I watched Rachel's face drain of every ounce of color it had. She looked around the room like she might find some kind of escape route, but there wasn't anywhere to run. Her mom, Carol, furrowed her brows, trying to figure it out. "What's that, sweetheart?" she asked, her voice still cheerful, still so hopelessly naive. I let the moment hang heavy in the air before answering. "It's a little home movie," I said, voice flat. "Starring Rachel and her coworker Jake. Recorded live last night. From about 15 minutes after I left for my trip." The silence that followed was the kind that sticks to your skin and makes you want to scrub yourself clean. No one moved. No one spoke. Even the balloons bobbed uselessly in the air, like they realized they didn't belong here anymore. Rachel took a shaky step forward, her mug sloshing coffee onto the floor. "Ethan, wait, it's not." I didn't let her finish. "Don't," I said, my voice cutting through the room sharper than I meant it to. "Just don't insult everybody here by pretending there's some way to explain this away." My dad, Frank, crossed his arms over his chest, his face darkening. "How long, Rachel?" he asked, his voice like gravel. Rachel looked like she might collapse right there on the floor. She opened her mouth, but no words came out. She tried again, voice barely above a whisper. It was just a mistake. A few times. It didn't mean anything." My mom flinched like she had been slapped. Carol shook her head over and over like she was trying to shake the words out of her ears. George swore under his breath, a low, broken sound. Rachel took another desperate step toward me. "Please, Ethan, you have to believe me. I didn't want this to happen. I just felt so alone lately, and Jake was just there, and it just happened. It didn't mean anything compared to you, I swear." I backed away from her slowly, like she was some wounded animal I didn't dare get close to anymore. It didn't even hurt the way I thought it would. It didn't feel like someone stabbing me in the chest. It felt like watching a slow-motion car crash after you've already walked away from the wreck. Rachel kept rambling, the words pouring out faster now, desperate and slippery, trying to claw back something she had smashed with her own hands. She swore it was over, that it didn't mean anything, that it was a stupid mistake, that she loved me, that she was confused, that it was just loneliness, that she needed time, that she didn't know how to fix it, but she wanted to fix it. I let her talk. I let everyone hear every single excuse fall out of her mouth, dripping with panic and fear and regret. Matt, her little brother, just shook his head in disgust and muttered under his breath, "Jesus, Ratch." Seriously, George looked ready to put a hole through the wall. Carol was crying now, not those neat little polite tears people cry at weddings or graduations, but real ugly sobbing, like she had just realized she didn't know the daughter she had raised at all. Meanwhile, my mom looked like she was physically restraining herself from throwing the champagne bottle straight at Rachel's head. My dad didn't say another word. He just stood there, stone-faced, staring at Rachel like she was a stranger who had broken into his home. The shame started to hit her then. You could see it. Rachel dropped the coffee mug. It shattered on the floor between us. And for once, she didn't even flinch. She dropped to her knees in the middle of the mess, sobbing into her hands, crying out my name like if she said it enough times, maybe I would forgive her. But I didn't move. I didn't speak. I didn't offer her my hand. After everything, there was no anger left, no screaming, no violent promises or shouting matches. Just this heavy, bone-deep emptiness. I looked down at her. The woman I had once loved so completely I would have torn down the world for her. And I realized she wasn't mine anymore. She hadn't been for a long time. I crouched down a little, enough so she could hear me without me having to shout over her wailing. "You chose this," I said, voice low and calm. "Every secret, every lie, every night you thought I wouldn't notice. You chose it, and now you can live with it." I stood back up, looked around the room at everyone. All the parents, the brother who had once looked up to her, the friend she had betrayed. And I said, simply, "I'll send the divorce papers next week." Then I turned and walked out the front door, into the cool morning air that smelled a hell of a lot cleaner than anything I had left behind. I didn't look back. Not once. Rachel could stay there on the floor, crying into the pieces of her own mess, surrounded by the people who had once believed she was better than this. The truth had finally come out, and no amount of lies could bury it again. Walking out that door should have broken me, but it didn't feel like loss. It didn't even feel like anger. It felt like breathing clean air for the first time after months of choking on smoke. The days that followed moved in slow motion. I crashed at my buddy Mark's place, sleeping on his ancient lumpy couch because it felt safer than being anywhere near that house. Mark didn't ask questions. He didn't need to. He just handed me a beer, put on a game, and sat in the silence with me. I sent Rachel a single text telling her that all communication had to go through my lawyer. No explanations. No fake apologies. No last desperate conversations. I blocked her number before she could even reply. Apparently, she didn't take it well. Mark showed me her social media meltdown, sad quotes about people not appreciating what they have, endless posts about healing and growing, as if she was the one who had been betrayed. It would have been almost funny if it hadn't been so pathetic. Then came the real consequences. Someone, maybe a coworker who overheard the right whispers, maybe a concerned party, leaked parts of the recordings and screenshots to the school board. Rachel was called in for an emergency meeting. She was asked to resign by the end of the week. Parents started talking. Gossip moved faster than wildfire. The golden teacher everyone adored had become a cautionary tale almost overnight. Jake, the so-called soulmate, he didn't stand by her either. The moment things got messy, he disappeared, transferred schools, wiped his hands clean. No goodbyes. No loyalty. Rachel tried reaching out through mutual friends, sending long, rambling voicemails about mistakes and second chances. I didn't answer. I didn't even listen to the full messages anymore. Deleting them became automatic, like brushing dirt off my shoulder. The divorce moved faster than I expected. Rachel signed the papers without fighting. Maybe she thought if she made it easy, I'd somehow forgive her a little. She was wrong. I kept the house, most of the assets. She moved back in with her parents, back to the small, quiet town she swore she would never live in again. The thing nobody tells you is that revenge doesn't look like fireworks or slow-motion victory laps. It looks like sitting in a cheap apartment you picked yourself, eating ramen noodles straight out of the pot, and feeling the crushing weight of nothing. Not sadness, not triumph, just nothing. I didn't post about it. I didn't blast her name everywhere. I didn't need to. Rachel's life unraveled without me lifting another finger. She lost her job, her reputation, her fairy tale with Jake, and, most painfully, the version of herself she had spent years pretending was real. Meanwhile, I started building a new life. Not a flashy one. Not a movie montage of success and six-packs and dream houses. A quieter life. A better one. I moved to a small town near the coast where no one knew my story. I bought a second-hand guitar and learned enough to embarrass myself at open mic nights. I went hiking again, losing myself in the noise of the wind and the crashing of the ocean. And slowly, painfully, I started remembering who I was before her. Some nights, I'd sit on the beach, staring out at the endless black water, and think about everything I lost. But more often, I thought about everything I found. The real revenge wasn't making her suffer. It wasn't her unemployment, or her loneliness, or the way even her family looked at her with disappointment now. The real revenge was this. I didn't need her anymore. She became just another name. Just another story I might tell a long time from now, when the wounds have faded into old scars. Rachel didn't cheat because I wasn't enough. She cheated because she was broken in ways I could never fix. And now, finally, I'm free from trying. She burned the house down with her own hands. And I didn't even have to lift a match. And that's the story. If you're still here, that means you're one of us. So go ahead, hit that subscribe button. I drop new chaos every single day. And trust me, tomorrow's story, it's even worse than this one.